I studied primatology as part of my undergraduate degree and have always loved chimps, so when I had the chance to work with them starting in 2009, I totally jumped on the chance. We did an international multi-site study looking at different kinds of psychological conditions in chimpanzees, and we wanted to see whether chimpanzees in these different settings displayed any behaviors that were signs of psychological conditions that we're familiar with in people, and that includes post-traumatic stress disorder, which we call PTSD pretty commonly, as well as depression, anxiety, and some other conditions. And we found some pretty substantial differences. There's really stressful situations in the wild for chimpanzees. There's hunters, there are fights, and there's a lot of human pressure on the environment, so it can be traumatic. But we found that psychological conditions were very rare in the wild. However, when we looked at sanctuaries, whether these were the African sanctuaries within range states or in the regions where chimpanzees live, or sanctuaries in the global north, we found that some psychological signs were very common, and some chimpanzees even had conditions that were similar to depression or PTSD. The U.S. government has had an unusual position on the chimpanzee in that they considered wild chimpanzees endangered under the endangered species list, but said captive chimpanzees, they're only threatened. And this lower protection status meant that all kinds of things could happen to chimpanzees that we totally wouldn't think of with an endangered species. In the United States, we're just about alone in the world in allowing invasive experiments. We even know here that the residents here at Chimpanzee Sanctuary Northwest used to be used in experiments, and some of them were even used in entertainment. And this has something to do with that lower protection status. So the fact that the U.S. government was challenged on this to say, hey, wait a minute, all chimpanzees are endangered, we think you should change this rule, the agency has apparently come to its senses, and they said that they're going to make all chimpanzees considered endangered. And what this means is that captive chimpanzees won't get this lower protection status, and we're not going to be able to exploit them in ways that just aren't consistent with what we know about endangered species. So residency doesn't define the value of a chimpanzee. A chimpanzee is amazing simply because he or she is a chimpanzee. And I don't care if they're wild or if they're in captivity. I want them to receive the highest level of protection. And the government might be able to take us in a step in that direction.